On this week's episode, we're in Fremont, Ohio, exploring the home, library, and gravesite of the 19th President of the United States, Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes was a lawyer and Civil War hero. He was elected to his one term as president, not by the popular vote, but by a special committee established by Congress. He later retired to Spiegel Grove, a beautiful estate in Fremont, Ohio. After his passing, the Hayes Commemorative Library and Museum opened, becoming the very first presidential library in the United States. Then, in 1928, Congress authorized the donation of original iron gates at the entrance of the White House grounds on West Executive Avenue to the state of Ohio, where they were placed at several gateways at Hayes' home. And today, we're taking you here as we explore this wonderful site, take in a bit of history, as well as pay our respects to the President and First Lady. So please come along with us on this episode of History and Relics. Rutherford Burchard Hayes was born on October 4, 1822, in Delaware, Ohio. His family had moved to Ohio 5 years previously, and his father had died about 2 months before Hayes' birth, leaving his mother to raise both him and his sister Fanny. Hayes attended several schools until graduating from Kenyon College in 1842 as his class's valedictorian. 3 years later, he achieved a law degree from Harvard Law School and began practicing law in Sandusky, Ohio. In 1849, Hayes moved to Cincinnati, where his law practice became successful and where he was first drawn to the Republican Party. In 1852, Hayes married Lucy Webb, a graduate of Cincinnati's Wesleyan Women's College. She would later become the first First Lady to have a college degree. The couple would have 8 children during their marriage. Hayes fought in the Army during the Civil War and rose to the rank of Major General. Hayes was wounded 5 times, most seriously at the Battle of South Mountain in 1862. While Hayes was still in the Army, Republicans from Cincinnati persuaded him to run for the House of Representatives, to which he was easily elected, and entered Congress in December 1865. 2 years later, he resigned and began his first term as Governor of Ohio, going on to serve 3 terms. He was the first person to earn a 3rd term as Governor of Ohio. In 1876, he became the Republicans' nominee for president and ran against Democrat Samuel Tilden of New York. Even with such notable figures, such as Mark Twain, campaigning on his behalf, Hayes never thought he could win. And he didn't win the popular vote as he lost by a 250,000 vote margin. Additionally, electoral college votes in Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina became contested. In what would end up being one of the most contested and controversial elections in American history, uncertainty lasted for months after the election, until January 1877, when Congress established an impromptu electoral commission to decide the dispute once and for all. The commission was composed of 8 Republicans and 7 Democrats, so it's no surprise that it decided in favor of Hayes by an 8-7 vote, handing the final electoral tally to Hayes by a 185 to 184 count. Things were even more contentious after that, so to avoid any resentment, Hayes secretly took the oath of office on Saturday, March 3, 1877, in the Red Room of the White House. Hayes was the first president to take the oath in the White House. He was also the first president to have a typewriter and a telephone there. As part of the Compromise of 1877, Southern Democrats were assured, in part, at least one cabinet post, the Postmaster General position, and withdrawal of federal troops from Louisiana and South Carolina, which effectively ended the Reconstruction era and returned the South to home rule. This was a setback to any equal rights progress made since the Civil War, but Hayes subsequently spent a great deal of time fighting on behalf of civil rights laws aimed at protecting Black Americans. Unfortunately, the House of Representatives was Democrat-controlled, and they blocked every one of Hayes's moves towards establishing civil rights, at the voting booth and beyond. Hayes then focused his attention towards revamping the civil service process, which had awarded political loyalty in its appointments instead of merit. He fought a good fight on the issue, but results would not be seen until years later when the 21st president, Chester A. Arthur, took office and implemented changes that Hayes had proposed earlier via the Pendleton Act, which mandated the civil service exam. Then came the Great Railroad Strike of 1877, which found railroad workers across the country walking off the job in protest of pay cuts. Hayes deployed federal troops to calm ensuing riots, which resulted in a victory for the railroads, as workers returned to their posts with the pay cuts still in force. Inside the White House, a distinguishing feature emerged from First Lady Lucy Hayes, an alcohol-free policy. To the joy of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, whose goal was to create a sober and pure world, the first couple banned wines and liquors from the White House, which later convinced prohibitionists to vote Republican. Hayes pledged to serve only one term as president, and that he did. Hayes retired to Fremont, Ohio in 1881 to Spiegel Grove, a home that was initially built by Hayes's uncle, Sardis Burchard. Hayes inherited the home after Sardis died in 1873. So why the name Spiegel? Spiegel is the German and Dutch word for mirror. Sardis named the home for the reflective pools of water that would collect on the property after a good rain. Hayes dedicated his life thereafter to advocacy efforts on behalf of such causes as children's literacy, prison reform, and the gap between rich and poor Americans. Lucy died at the age of 57 on June 25, 1889, after suffering a stroke. Rutherford died from complications of a heart attack on January 17, 1893, at the age of 70. Both died at their Spiegel Grove home. Both had been buried in the Oakwood Cemetery in Fremont. In 1915, both were reinterred at Spiegel Grove. In 1916, the Hayes Commemorative Library and Museum opened, becoming the very first presidential library. Old Whitey, a war horse that served during the Civil War and belonged to then Major, later Major General, Hayes, became the mascot of the 23rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry. The horse was buried at Spiegel Grove upon his death in 1879, with the grave marker reading, Old Whitey, a hero of 19 battles, 1861 to 1865. And now, come along with us as we show you around the grounds, tour the home, library, and museum, and pay our respects to the President and First Lady, as well as Old Whitey. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our program. If you like our content, we ask that you give us a thumbs up, a like, share with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you always know when our new content is published. And all of this costs nothing, but means a lot to us and keeps us growing. You may also leave us a tip if you choose. The address is provided here on your screen, and a link is provided in the description area below. So until next time, everyone, this one is history.